No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world.
That's one of those.
Oh, it's official.
It's official. He's got the air horn out. All right, today we've got our lovely guest, Intuition, a.k.a. Lee.
Hey, guys.
What's going on? And to my left, we've got the one and only Roseman, armed with an air horn.
What's up, notification gang?
For anybody who
Rope
doesn't
gang?
know, this would be a great place for me to advertise the fact that I recently appeared on Kinda Neat Intuition's podcast, and you guys should definitely go watch that if you haven't seen it
You
yet.
can find it at kindaneat.net/Adam22.
That's it.
Intuition is super woke, really deep.
super
I'm
woke.
very woke. I've used the word problematic like 10 times already.
He used the word problematic right after we interviewed Jay Stash,
But
who
he
did
gets
not
hella
use the word
ass.
problematic. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he gets hella ass, which is problematic in its own way, don't you think? Yeah. How do you balance being a feminist and a womanizer?
Real quick. This podcast brought to you by Bartles and James Margaritas.
BJ's, we out here.
Exactly.
Is that something you deal with?
Yeah, actually, good question.
Let's talk about our attitudes towards women. I heard somebody say that we
I knew that we
sexualize women on here.
Dude, I knew we were going to get into this so fast.
Let's
and
just get right into it because this young girl.
I try to avoid talking about sex too much on air or online because every time I do, I end up saying some dumb shit and like people get mad at me.
Right.
It's just us. This is just us.
I've seen the numbers.
No, yeah, nobody's watching. Yeah, should we talk about this or should we go back into your roots, your history?
I don't care. Either way,
Let's start with girls.
Do
It's
you think
part
we
of my-
sexualize women too much?
on the show. On this show,
I don't know. Some girl said that and it kind of hurt my feelings. I tried to talk to her
Adam,
about it.
I don't know if we have any female viewers.
We do. It's like 8% of the total on the average
Okay.
YouTube video. It's like maybe 5 to 8%,
this
which
guy
is
is
terrible.
a metrics phenom.
Well, yeah,
he
I'm in the
loves
analytics,
metrics. He
yeah.
loves the analytics.
It's not good though. 8%.
That's
Because-
honestly, that's why on my podcast I generally won't bring up sex and women shit too frequently unless it's like somebody that I know really has like a sex issue. I'm like, so tell me about your womanizing.
Right.
Because otherwise I feel like it's just so easy to fucking piss people off and to like come off like a douchebag even if you're not a douchebag. You feel
Right.
me? Like it's very easy to come off like an asshole.
Talking about sex, yeah.
Because
I've dealt with this.
it's easy to get into gym locker room talk.
Right.
And locker room talk is like no one's gonna find out about that.
Right.
And so, it's it's vulgar.
People
and
get their entire reputations destroyed online for saying things that ultimately are fairly normal in the scope of guy talk, guy
Right,
group
right.
chat.
Right.
You had sex. You're describing how you had sex.
You
you're
pull
talking
something
about it
out of
extremely in
context.
depth.
Yeah, you pull something out of context in a 1 hour conversation.
Exactly,
You can
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
really make
When I
someone
think
look
about
and
my
that's
group
why
chat, if it
those
was
conversations are oftentimes best left behind closed doors.
It's true. I
of a
feel like
locker room.
the OSS group chat is going to be like the next Panama Papers, and it's going to like come out, and everybody's going to fucking
Who's in that group chat?
just everybody hang out out here.
Oh,
It's a
man.
long list.
That was
Yeah,
a
this
very
is-
relevant reference.
Yeah, that's very, very of the moment.
Panama Papers?
Have you looked into this much?
What, the Icelandic president resigned? Or
Can we say that Madzilla did not know who ISIS was?
Really?
That would surprise me.
Huh. It's not very woke.
You gotta really. Is that problematic? Is it problematic to just be in the dark about things?
I'm not, I don't try to be in other people's business, but
No,
I feel like
honestly-
you should be up on game with terrorism. You feel me?
Listen, no, honestly,
Could affect
not
you.
knowing ISIS is weirdly refreshing. All ISIS wants to do is make you afraid. She's like, I don't even know who the fuck you guys are.
She won. Yeah,
That's
she
true.
totally won. Yeah, yeah.
She kind of beat us.
I feel like ISIS sounds like the most lit, like chewing gum. Like it would make your breath so fresh.
Yeah, ISIS.
Damn, this
yeah.
shit is ISIS.
Well, you ever think about how hard it must be for the metal band ISIS?
Right.
Yeah.
Or like one of my friends' little sister's name is Isis.
Anyone, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Just that joke over and over and over.
What
yeah.
nationality is she?
I don't know, of mixed ethnicity, I think.
Damn, that's
Well, that was woke of you. Yeah, that was very.
Yeah, I don't
very
know.
woke.
I don't know her exact
Don't
analytics.
They say don't gender me. Like I always think about that because my sister, when I see her playing with her kid, she'll always be like, "Is Adam a boy or a girl?" And he's like, "Boy." And this is like fun little kid game. But then you see these feminists online who are like, who talk about gendering things like that's really bad. That must be hard to deal with, like in a practical way when you actually have a kid.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I gender things.
Honestly, for the most part, I feel like you put a bunch of blocks and dolls in front of a little guy and a little girl. They'll go to what they're into, and
Right.
for the most part, the boys are into the boy stuff and the girls into the girl stuff. I think they're just talking about like for the 0.01%
Right,
of the
exactly,
guys
yeah.
who want to play with the dolls. Like, let them go ahead and play with it. Who cares?
Play
I
with
think
the
that's what
dolls.
they're trying to say, but it's like there's inherent biological things in people that draw them towards whatever they're attracted to.
You don't think, because like my nephew just popped out and my mom was telling me, she's like, yeah, he's like such a boy, like he's just so attracted to like trucks and cars and stuff in the
And pussy.
and pussy, yeah.
whiskey?
And he thinks the word fart is so funny and stuff. Don't you think that's very just like he is a boy?
Yeah, no, he's just kind of that's who he is. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, they do the don't gender me thing, and I guess it makes sense because it's like if your kid is going towards something that's not a gender norm, like let their freak flag fly.
Yeah.
Even at 3.
So look,
I have seen some parents like react weirdly to kids doing what they think is like inappropriate for their gender, and it's weird to watch.
Yeah.
Like it's weird to watch somebody be like, "Hey, that's for girls." It's like, whoa, like
Yeah.
slow down, guy.
That's
Like,
scary,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, yeah. So I'm not like. I'm not like a huge activist on any of this kind of shit. And I don't really have like any like crazy outlandish opinion about it. But I have like witnessed somebody scold their kid for acting girlish, and it made me feel weird. Like,
Yeah, but
that's weird to watch.
Let your kid lead it. Like if your kid likes blocks and like guy stuff, then you can dress him in blue. You
Right.
know. But like what they're saying is like don't like.
Well,
force him.
unless he's a blood, then dress him in red.
yeah, that should definitely dictate. Hey, so is Alaska a blue state or a red state?
It's generally a red state.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in a pretty. I didn't really know that when I was growing up there, though.
Right.
But it's a really military state.
Yeah, makes
there's
sense.
a lot of military people up there, and yeah, super conservative. Lots of guns.
Right.
Like one time, my friends were bicycling down a dirt road when I was a kid, and it was like a Native American, a kid, 2 white kids, and a black kid.
Uh-huh.
And this guy drove by with a gun rack in the back of his truck and said, "Take your friend back to Africa." Like that kind of shit happens there.
A lot.
Well, I don't know about a lot, but I mean, and this was in the '90s, so
Yeah.
like, but yeah, that happened.
Damn.
Yeah, so
people are dumb.
yeah, people. It's a lot of. It's
They're not woke.
it's
They're not
rural. It's rural, and so
Yeah.
it's not as woke. You know,
Yeah.
I
What
mean,
is-
for example,
But like being woke are like the kind of things that are kind of common knowledge to us. Like we all have a basic understanding of like Black Lives Matter and like all this kind of stuff, and like we all think Donald Trump's an asshole,
Yeah.
presumably. But I was just back in New Hampshire, and it's like, wow, that shit. A lot of that stuff does not connect at all with
right.
other people.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Only
think my
5%
mom-
of America's on Twitter.
Yeah.
really, that's
Well,
so
what's the
crazy.
percentage?
5.
It sounds about right. Twitter's pretty tiny, but Facebook's
That's
percentage is
crazy.
huge.
And
yeah.
think about that is that even only like a quarter of Twitter is really woke. So
Yeah.
I mean, shit.
a lot of
It's
dumbasses on Twitter, yeah.
it's very problematic.
All the SJ dubs out there are going to be watching us laughing at the word problematic, and they're going to be. We got to put a trigger warning in the beginning of this. We were making fun of SJ dubs a little bit.
Wait,
yeah.
what's SJ Dub?
Social justice warriors? But I don't say
Dude, we're not
SJW. I say SJ
We're not
dub.
making fun.
I-
We're
yeah.
on their side right now.
Oh, I'm with him. Yeah, stop slut shaming. Let the
Don't
sluts be
gender
sluts.
me.
Absolutely.
Stop slut shaming me. That's what I'm saying to all the chicks out there that I'm spending time with. Stop hating on me because I'm slutty.
Yeah, let him live.
I mean, for example, with Alaska, though, like I like to think that my mom is like, pretty aware of things, and in my head, I'm like, oh, she and I believe the same thing socially. But she was a Sarah Palin fan until like last year. You feel me?
Really?
And I'm
Yeah.
like, Mom, you don't realize that this lady has gone fucking bananas? Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
There's
so-
there's generational things too, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, she's from this generation where like she won't tell me who she's voting for because that's
Yeah.
what her dad taught her. And I'm like, why the fuck wouldn't you talk about who you're voting for? Like,
Yeah.
that's how ignorance gets spread. You feel me? Like, talk about who you're gonna vote for and why.
Yeah, have a conversation. Try to come to a fucking conclusion.
Yeah, totally.
But so in the area that you grew up in, was it like very, very rural, or where? What kind of upbringing was this?
Okay, so my dad was in the Air Force. That's how we ended up there. And so shout out Eielson Air Force Base. That's where he was stationed and where I went to school from kindergarten until I graduated high school. And yeah, it was really small. Like my school.
Here's Alaska. Here's Alaska.
No, Alaska looks like this.
Here's
Here.
Alaska.
Alaska looks like this, and I'm right here in the middle.
Show the.
I'm right there in the middle
Okay.
of the state. This is the Aleutian Chain. That's
Not
the
even
Panhandle.
by the ocean.
I'm like basically in the equivalent of living in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm that far.
How cold is Alaska?
Oh my god.
All right,
dude.
so it varies greatly.
Yeah,
I'm
I've
glad
heard
you're
this.
still here with us because I wouldn't have made it through that.
Yeah, it
How,
was-
how many years?
15. I moved up there when I was like 4.5, 5, and I left when I was 19.
Could you
Okay.
imagine
Living in Alaska?
in the middle of it?
New Hampshire's pretty cold.
In the middle of
Sometimes.
it.
Now
like part of the year.
that being said, I lived in the second biggest city, but the second biggest city, like Santa Barbara, has a population of 100,000. It's twice the size of Fairbanks, where I'm from, or like the main city.
Okay.
And I'm from a
So
small
50,000.
town. Yeah, ish, like 50, 60,000.
You said that kind of weird, like you picked Santa Barbara.
Well, because I lived in Santa Barbara for a long time, so it's a reference for me. You know, what I mean?
Nice.
When I moved to Santa Barbara from Alaska,
paradise.
It was a fucking big city to me. I said, I'm never gonna find my way around this place. Like it's so small.
That's funny. Yeah.
I was like, how am I ever gonna learn these streets? Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I'm from a small town outside of Fairbanks. It's between like. I don't know why I'm getting so regional and specific.
For
but,
all
like,
our Alaskans out there.
So here's if Fairbanks is right here and Eielson's over here. My hometown is called North Pole, and it's in the middle of those two. So I'm from North Pole, Alaska, and there's only I think 3,000 official residents.
North Pole.
North Pole, not the North
of
Pole,
course.
but just
Just
North
a
Pole.
name.
That's a dope name.
Yeah, in the 50s they were trying to like help industry up there, and so they're like, yo, if we rename it North Pole, then maybe toy factories will move up here, and then
Get
they'll
letters.
it'll be like made in North Pole, and then we'll get all this Santa Claus business, and that didn't happen. No toy factories. moved
Brilliant
up there.
branding.
So now it's just a tourist trap.
They really didn't think much of the toy companies there. That's
So
just
tourists
a
will
bizarre
come there just to
concept.
get the merch.
Oh yeah, it's a huge tourist trap. Like there's the Santa Claus house.
So it kind of worked, yeah.
it kind of
As
there's an oil
little
field
bit.
there too. I don't think it's active anymore, but one time Steven Seagal flew over it in like a bush plane and was like, "What is that place? Land this plane. I gotta shoot a movie there." And he ended up like doing half of a movie at this oil field in North
Wow.
Pole. Yeah, claim to fame, bro.
huge.
So what? How cold is Alaska? though? I
Okay,
need
sorry.
to know,
Cold.
yeah.
How cold is it? The coldest I've ever been in was negative 72 degrees, and I still had to go to school that day. I was in second grade. My mom was a teacher, and so that
I've never even heard that number like
Yeah.
in reference to weather.
it's crazy.
I feel like if you have exposure for 30 seconds, you're dead.
Oh,
man.
so like that's the thing is that when you leave the house like that, you're fully covered from head to toe. You have on a beanie, a face mask. You got long johns, sweatpants, snow pants, wool socks, boots.
Yeah.
Like a long john shirt, a sweatshirt, a parka with your hood up. Like you're
Gore-Tex.
completely covered. And even then, you're like, straight from the car into the school, and you. At that point, you leave your car running all day. Like you get your car winterized up. Excuse me, sorry. Burroughs and James. You get your
BJ's.
Winterized.
Yeah,
you leave your car on all day. How the fuck does that work?
You get your car winterized, so like you have a plug coming out the front. So if it's like colder than 20 below, you plug your car in so the engine doesn't freeze. But then if it's like super cold like that, negative 50, negative 60, you turn your car on and leave it running, and then you pull the key out and it'll stay running, and then that way you can lock your door and no one can steal your car. Because it's actually less emissions to leave your car running for like 5 hours than it is when it's that cold to turn it off and turn it back on.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Some environmentalists probably tell me that I'm wrong about that, but that's what they used to tell us
I thought
in Fairbanks.
you were saying that like there's something so bad that would happen to your car from sitting in the
Oh, it would
cold like
freeze.
that.
It would freeze too. And so that's the thing is like you would turn it on and it would just turn over and turn over and turn over and like your antifreeze freezes or whatever.
Having to do all that to your car seems insanely impractical. It seems like a great reason to just leave.
Alaska seems insanely impractical.
Yeah.
Like, why? Why
I don't
live
really-
there? What was your mom running from? Like,
No, my dad. Well, my dad got a station up there, but then my mom loved it. And that's actually because there's really great school systems up there. Like the education up there is really good, and she was a teacher, so that was very important to her.
Right.
But
she got a good job and got tenured and everything, and wanted
course.
to stay. So
you could probably teach in Vermont. Nice.
Yeah.
But okay, your dad got a choice to move up there.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny story too. So, when you're in the military, you get and you're getting restationed. They give you you get 5 choices. Like you make a list of your top 5, right? So, and they tell you don't put your first choice first because they usually give you your second choice, right? So my dad wanted to go to either Alaska or Hawaii, and so he was like, but I want to go to Hawaii more. So he put Alaska as number 1, Hawaii as number 2, thinking like, they won't give me my number 1. They'll send us to Hawaii, and then they shipped our asses to Alaska. So
There's nobody else.
my life could have
Everyone
been
wants
very
to go to Hawaii and
Right.
nobody wants to go
Right,
to Alaska.
exactly.
It's like,
So-
this guy wants to go to Alaska.
Right,
Of course he's going to
exactly.
Alaska.
Yeah. So my life could have been very different, but I ended up in Alaska, man. That's
Did you hate the cold, or did you enjoy the
Yeah,
lifestyle out there?
I'm not really about that life.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there were times we get these things that they're called deep freezes, where it's like if it goes, I think, more than 10 days of being -40 below or colder. It's called a deep freeze. And I remember one of my Christmas breaks was like a deep freeze the whole time. So it was -40 for like fucking 13 or 14 days straight when I was in 5th grade. I didn't fucking leave the house for like that whole time because I live out in the woods. My closest neighbor is like half-mile away. All my friends were like, you know, you had to like drive there, and I'm only 12, so I couldn't drive. Like everybody lived 5, 6, 7 miles away. So
What's the nicest that it ever gets?
oh, in the summer it's beautiful.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna front. So Fairbanks is actually, I think in the whole world, it's the widest temperature variance. So it goes from, like I said, like -70 in the winter occasionally, to like it gets all the way up to, it's been recorded at 99 degrees above.
Wow.
So it's nice. And up there, for some reason, this sounds stupid, but it feels like you're closer to the sun or something. So like 70 up there feels like astounding. It feels like 85 in California.
Really?
70 up there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, no, it's relative. If you experience -40,
Oh, yeah,
75
yeah.
feels like 180.
Let me
For
tell
sure.
Hey, let me tell you something, man. We would get these things called Chinook winds, and a Chinook wind is kind of like a Santa Ana down here, right? It's like those warm gusts of wind. And there's a few times in my life where it would go from, it would be like -30, -35 one day, and then we would get a Chinook wind, and it would get up to like 25 or 30 degrees above the next day. And when you have a full fucking 60-degree difference like that, dog, you go from like being fully bundled up to like you go outside in shorts and shit. Like there was one time where that happened and a Chinook wind blew in, and that day we were snowboarding with t-shirts on because we were so fucking warm. Like it was great.
Wow.
And it's still 30 degrees. You know what I mean? Like that's not warm.
That's
So,
crazy. Yeah. 30 is so cold. But I do know exactly what you're saying, because when I go back to, and you see it with kids out here too.
Yeah,
We're like,
if it's 68, I'm like, oh my god.
the
put
Mexican
fucking
kids at the skate
parka
park,
on.
it's 90 degrees and they got hoodies on.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, they just are so used to it.
Why they
being
gotta
hot.
be Mexican? That's problematic.
Yeah, I'm being problematic. I'm stereotyping, but I just
Talking about a skate park.
I see a lot of Mexican kids in particular who are just wearing
White
long
kids
sleeves.
don't skateboard.
Nah, they do a
True.
little bit.
Yeah, they do.
Hey, so all right. So at what point do you become a fucking hip hop fanatic? Tell us about this journey into becoming a rapper.
I mean, you know, I'll be 35 in July, so I like am from that generation where it was just always, it was already there. Like when I was born, it was already on TV. I remember, I just always remember being hyped on this shit. Like for some reason, I really remember being excited about. Like scolding my mom because she didn't understand that Aerosmith and Run DMC were collaborating on a video together. I was like, you gotta let me watch this. You don't understand. Like, I thought that was really important, and I was like 6. So like I just really liked rap music, and of course I was at that age where like I got tricked into liking like really shitty stuff at first because I'm an older brother. I didn't have an older brother telling me like, yo, Vanilla Ice is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo,
Vanilla Ice album.
so
yeah.
I'm like, yo, if I got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. You know what I mean? Like, I was super down with Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer when that shit came out, and the Fat Boys, and
Yeah.
like, you know, I had a friend named Richard who was like half black and half white, and he lived with his white mom, and she would just let us listen to like NWA's first tape, like not thinking that there was anything wrong with a bunch of third graders listening to that. You know what I mean? So
That's funny.
yeah, I just loved it ever since I was real young. But I had my phases too. Like I was into like hair metal, butt rock, like
Right.
Motley Crue and Poison and shit back in the day too. And then, but I don't know, like right around age like I always say 13 when like Doggy Style and Wu-Tang came out and all that. That was like, I was like, okay, this is
Right.
my shit. And I was like I was the white dude at my school that like. The black girls would like laugh because I could dance pretty good.
Okay.
And they'd be like, oh, you know what? Like I would do all these school projects and turn them into raps. Like I would change the lyrics and turn them into raps. Like, you know, with so much pollution in the air we breathe, it's kind of hard being big L-double-E. Like shit like that as like a fucking 12 or 13-year-old. But I remember like this girl Tamika going like, you know what? When you rap, it's like you actually have rhythm.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like, turn up.
But you were like a rap fan from a super young age, so were you always writing
What was
raps
her
and
name?
trying?
Tamika.
Shout out to Mika.
Shout out to Mika.
What percentage black was your high school?
Tamika.
Believe it or not, my high school was pretty diverse, I
Okay.
think. I don't know how diverse, but being that it was a military school, the military is super diverse. So we had I grew up, in LA, like Asian people are always surprised that I grew up with Asian people, but like we had a ton of half Korean kids, we had a ton of half Filipino kids, and then I grew up with a lot of black folks from all over the place, like from down south and New York and wherever. And that was the thing, is like, since kids were getting shipped in and out all the time, but my family, we stayed there the whole time, so I was lucky that I was a military kid that didn't have to move around.
Right.
But I got a lot of kids that would cycle through, and then so they would bring shit up from wherever they were from. So if you were stationed in California before, you're bringing up California shit. If you're stationed in New York, you're bringing up New York shit. If you're stationed down south, you know what I mean. So like, I don't know. So our school had a pretty diverse and like wide array, like an eclectic music taste. Like,
Were you a b-boy?
No, I never was a b-boy.
That's good.
Are your
Okay.
parents still with us and also there?
Yes, my folks are still alive, and they're living in Alaska.
So you go back?
Yeah, I got to go in June. My brother's getting married. Shout out Steven.
Wow.
Wow, he stayed.
Yeah, he's like fully Alaskan. He talks about like, I want to move eventually, but he's been up there since he was 2.
What does he do?
He's like a baller. He's a journeyman electrician. So he bought his first house when he was like 23. Like that's the whole thing. Is like I can understand why he stayed, because he's not a creative. You know what I mean? Like, and like that's the thing. The reason I got out of there is because I always just knew that like what inspires me is not what is up there. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
But if you're a dude that like doesn't give a shit about just working hard and putting your nose to the grindstone, like dude, Alaska never really hit a fucking recession. So
Because there's just so much money to be made up there.
So
and
much
probably,
money.
Well, the housing prices low and everything.
housing
too?
prices
Yeah.
are they're not low, they're not super low, but they're like phenomenally lower than California.
Right. Yeah.
Did the trade seem so important up there? If it's 6 days in a row, 40 below, and your heat goes out or something happens?
Oh
it's like,
yeah,
holy shit!
Oh yeah, that's
somebody.
it's like life or death type of shit.
Yeah.
But then he was up there working on the oil fields in his 20s, and it's just different mentalities, man. Like my brother is a super hard worker, but he doesn't care about like kind of just switching the brain off and just like working, so he would work like 7 12-hour days on the North Slope up there at the very tip top of the state on the oil fields like that you would see in ice road truckers.
Right.
And you're up there for fucking a month working 7/12s the whole fucking time, and like there's no girls, there's no booze,
And he
there's no
doesn't-
drugs.
but he doesn't mind.
He doesn't give a shit because at the same time it was pure profit. Like the whole
Yeah.
time that you're working up there, you're not paying for any food, you're not paying for room and board, you're not paying for shit, and you're walking home with like so much money.
Yeah.
So by the time, like I said, he stayed up there, and by the time he's 23, he bought a house. Now he's 30, has a second house. Like
Right.
it's crazy.
He's gonna retire at 45.
something like that.
Did
Like,
you ever have jobs at a young age like that?
I did start working early. My first job was when I was 14, and it's the job that everybody on Air Force Base has. You work as a grocery bagger.
Okay.
So
I was a grocery bagger.
it's dope. I mean, it's
Wow.
different in California. Like there'll be people that bag your groceries, but you don't really tip them here. The
Oh, we
grocery
don't tip.
Yeah, the grocery store baggers. When I was a kid, like you would, my first time I ever did it, the first groceries I bagged them all up, take them out, and get to chatting with the people. And they're like, I remember they're like from New Jersey, and my mom is like from right outside of New Jersey, and so I'm like, oh yeah, I go to Jersey all the time. And they gave me a fucking $10 tip, and that was my first tip as a 14-year-old. $10.
$10.
Dude, I made like $115 my first day as a 14-year-old.
First day?
A day.
I bagged groceries and never got a tip. I've seen tip cups sitting there, but I've never really seen people
That's the
interacting
hustle
with them
on
too
Air
much.
Force bases. You're a bagger, and then you bag it. You take it to their car. You put it in their car
okay,
for
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And if you're a fast talker, they give you good money.
Right, because also the base prices are low, so they're already saving money. So
Yeah.
like, fuck
Right.
it, give this
And
kid.
probably
call
anybody
it
who's
a
working on an Air Force
commissary.
base, they got a lot of money
Commissary,
and
yeah.
probably not that much shit to spend it on because
Do you know
they're just kind of
totally.
working.
Do you know
yeah.
Sexual Jumanji?
No, I don't know.
You
Sexual.
always ask people.
He's a cashier. He's my favorite. My favorite guy in the grocery game right now.
What's your all-time top 5 of baggers?
I would say probably Jumanji, Intuition,
Oh shit.
Adam.
But you know what always pissed me off
Top
is
5
like
dead or
I
alive.
hated the fact that you couldn't put like the chicken breasts in with like the soap.
Yeah. Oh,
That dude, it seems illogical
Hey,
to me.
now that I did that as a 14-year-old, even 20 years later, dog, when somebody's bagging my groceries, if they put my fucking toiletries in with my chicken, I'm like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm
Well,
like,
it's
this
definitely-
is.
Wait, explain,
I'd probably-
explain that to me.
Because
You're
the
supposed
idea
to
is
put
that
chemicals
yeah.
in a chemical bag. So if you're buying soap, if you're buying like
Detergent
yeah,
and all
detergent,
shit.
soap,
Just in case.
anything that would go under your sink. You put that in one bag, and then all your like meats and perishables go together, and fruits go together. You know what I
Even
mean?
though the
Like,
chicken is totally sealed, just in case.
Yeah, well, I
Oh,
mean, but
chicken's
it's not
nasty,
that
though. It got
sealed. It
slime all
barely
over
has
it
that.
and shit.
Yeah, there's like slime on the outside.
Oh, bruh, yeah.
I could kind of understand, but are you supposed to? Can you just put all the meats together, or you're not supposed to mix pork and chicken in the same
nah,
bag?
I mean, I would.
right.
you
What if
I
they
mean, I
look
don't
like they might be a
remember.
Muslim?
Kosher.
Like it's been 20 years, like I said, but I was good at my job though. I was really about that life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like a side hustle actually that I kept all through high school because you could do that. You just go in and make your own hours like whenever you'd want to go
Sounds
in.
great,
basically.
yeah.
It was dope. And then, but yeah, I mean, dude, I've had so many fucking shit jobs, like a dozen.
How do you get out of Alaska?
Yeah. What's your
Okay,
way out? Did you have any success as a rapper before you left?
I wasn't really rapping before I left.
okay.
I left the first chance that I had. I was like good in school, so I got like all straight A's throughout high school and everything. And when I graduated, I had like a 3.96 or something.
Nerd.
Yeah, super.
Wow.
But
Same though.
yeah,
I'm
you know what I mean.
impressed. Not I.
Fuck with me.
Fuck with me. I did good in school. That should be your Tinder bio.
I did good in school, and so Alaska started doing this thing. They have this thing up there called brain drain. Have you ever heard of this? Everybody that's smart wants to move out of there. A lot of small towns are
Right,
like that.
yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
that's
Well, it
smart
makes
wants
sense,
to move
yeah.
to fucking New York or LA
Right, yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. And so to try and thwart brain drain, my senior year they started this program where if you were in the top % of your graduating class, then you got a full scholarship to any of the universities in Alaska.
Wow.
So my freshman year, I went to University of Alaska Fairbanks, and it was dope. Like that's the party school in Alaska. So we were really turning up.
You were slamming buds.
Oh, dude. I mean, I went from like a 175-pound kid to like fucking 190 in 1 year just from just drinking
Yeah.
constantly and just being an idiot.
How
Yeah.
are the girls up there in that
That's
environment?
actually called
though?
the Freshman 15. Shout out Bartles.
Yeah.
and
Just a
James.
freshman 20 for your boy. That's all good though. The girls were cool, man. Like, I mean, we talked about this on my podcast. I lost my virginity in my first like couple months of college. You know what I
Right.
mean? And yeah, and then from there it was just like,
You think if I went to Alaska, I would get laid?
oh yeah,
What about Robesman?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But you would also, yo. Here's the thing, like when I go back now, like people look at me like I'm some kind of artsy fartsy hipster, and in LA, people like my artsy fartsy hipster friends look at me like I'm a bro jock.
Right.
So I'm like, you know,
What does the artsy fartsy hipster angle work in Alaska? Like,
not
are you-
not really.
So you're not like a celebrity because you're from LA. They don't give a.
Well, so because of a lot of my friends from high school are still up there, and they all kind of like kept up with what we're doing on Facebook and shit. Like, I have like a tiny bit of celebrity at home, but I mean it's spread enough to where this is a funny story actually. My best friend that I shoot with, his name's Dom. Shout out Dom. Photo shit, like that's one of my main jobs. He's coming up to shoot my brother's wedding this summer, like I was talking about, and when my brother was hiring the DJ, right? It's this kid that I went to high school with. He's like, "Oh, hey, do you need a photographer? You know, because I do that too with my wedding services." And my brother's like, "Oh no, you know, my brother's friend is gonna come up and shoot him." He goes, "Who, Dom? Oh, his Instagram is dope." So I was like, "Oh shit, we're like all famous in the hood now." But,
Yeah, there's towns in America you go back and they're like, "Oh, what's up, Hollywood?" Like, "Oh shit, how's it going on?"
Oh,
in
I
Hollywood?"
definitely get that when I go home, and I definitely get conservative people being like, "Oh, you know, I'm sure you're like super liberal now," and da da da, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, problematic. Or like, you know, some of my like more religious friends would be like, "Oh, are you sure you're gonna come into the church? It might burn down if you come in." I'm like,
Wow.
on,
That's
man.
like what people say to me, but way more extreme. Nobody's ever said like anything about being like liberal or whatever, but it's
Yeah.
always like something about followers and shit, because that's like finally like people in small towns like realize that
Yeah,
it's cool
'cause
to have Instagram followers. so
Everybody's got
they'll-
access to Instagram.
But think about it, in an average small town, it's like nobody is going to have a bunch of followers for any reason, really. So it's like
Unless
to
they're
them,
hot-
it
unless
seems
they're a
like
hot
such an
girl.
interesting thing. Yeah, like hot girls are the only thing you do, and most hot girls are not really. If you are a hot girl that wants to be popping on the internet, you're probably not going to live in a small town, right?
no, there are a lot
don't
of hot
know.
girls in
There's-
small
that's true,
towns that
yeah.
have a good following or whatever. But I'm saying it's just funny to think that like
Get yourself a suicide.
you're
girl.
super Hollywood, but then all of a sudden the kid who's saying the same thing to you is like looking at your followers like, fuck.
and that's the thing is I don't have like a shit ton of followers by any means on any platform really, but it's like it just in the
You got
contrast.
500K on a YouTube video.
Oh yeah, I mean, like my YouTube does good, but my point is that like the contrast is like my brother doesn't even have Facebook.
Right,
You know, like
right.
like my mom is not on the internet at all. So it's like to them it's such a foreign world. They're like, "What do you do all day?" And I'm like, "Oh well, you know, like I sit on Twitter and like try to brainstorm and get ideas." And they're like, "What the fuck? Like what kind of life is that?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yo, I'm woke."
Excuse me.
All right, yo,
Get back to the oil field,
Yo, all right,
bro.
so you leave Alaska, and then what's your? Why do you leave?
Okay, so my point was I was going my freshman year. I went to UAF and turned up,
Got
and,
laid.
and was out here, got laid.
Finally
Was
got
it tight
someone else,
first
yeah.
time?
It was dope. Yeah, I mean, my shout out my friend Josh was in the.
What I'm
bottom
saying is like,
bunk.
what is sex like?
Condom?
Not for me. I definitely have had sex. For the viewers and everybody in the comments.
There's virgins watching this.
I mean, boobs do feel like sandbags. So,
all right.
Go
so
get yourself a sandbag.
I found out about this this exchange program where you could like go to other schools in other states but pay your home tuition, right? And I was like, oh, I got free tuition, so this seems like a great loophole. And so I found out about. The only school in Southern California that was participating in this exchange program was Cal Poly Pomona, and I just knew that I wanted to go to Southern California. And I looked at Cal Poly Pomona's like little pamphlet, and it was like, it's a half hour from the beach, it's a half hour from LA, it's a half hour from the mountains. I was like, yo, this sounds dope.
Pomona is such a weird place.
Yeah, I was like, this sounds dope because I was like all hella into snowboarding, and I was like, I'll be able to go snowboarding. And then everybody that moves to California, they go like, oh, I'm gonna learn to surf.
Yeah.
And, like no.
But compared to Alaska, Pomona must have seemed dope, right?
Well, so that's the problem is that then right like 3 weeks before I left or something, I fucking had I got drunk at campus and fucking was just running around being an idiot and got a DWI or like not a DWI but a minor in possession. I wasn't driving,
okay.
but I got caught being underage and being drunk, and they revoked my license or suspended my license for 6 months. So I went down to fucking Pomona and I didn't have a car and I didn't have a driver's license, so I couldn't even borrow
Ooh,
people's
okay,
cars.
yeah.
And it's a commuter school, so there's like even though 17,000 people go there, only like 400 stay on campus or something.
Right.
So
they made this brain
that
drain
shit
program
sucked. Yeah,
to
and then
keep you in Alaska.
and I dipped anyway.
And they were
I used
because
it
it
to
was
dip.
created by the dumb people who stayed in Alaska.
Yeah, that's a jug
You
right there, yeah.
outsmarted them.
I finessed the plug.
Yeah, you.
That's a glow up.
He ran off on the plug. The plug being the Alaskan government.
Yeah, for real. I ran off on the plug twice. Yeah, so that exactly. I like found the little loophole of like, okay, cool. I'm gonna use the brain drain to get the fuck out of here.
But so what? You hated Pomona because you couldn't have a
That's
car,
a
so
nerdy
it was
school.
like
That's a nerdy
impractical?
school too, right?
Pomona is a pretty. It's not like super nerdy, but I think it's a pretty good school. It's like more for engineering. And I was just like a lost dude. Like I didn't know what the fuck I really wanted to do. Like I liked photography, and I was like, so I started taking photo classes and shit. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. But while I was there, being fucking stuck on campus all the time, the one cool thing was. Is right by the Glass House, and so I was going like like probably 3 times a week to shows, like punk shows, and hip hop shows, and it was at the time where like Jurassic 5 was the shit,
Right,
and, like,
okay.
and Hyro was the shit, and like so I was seeing all them people come through, and Living Legends and all that.
And were you loving it?
I was enamored.
Yeah.
I loved it so fucking much. And I already knew that I could rap, and I had been writing little raps for like forever.
Yeah.
But that year in Pomona, when I was just like stuck on campus, there was this kid upstairs named Graham who had Acid Pro on his computer, and he was showing me that he was like making raps. And I was like, oh shit. And in my head I was like, oh, I'm like way better than you. Like, yo, let me rap with you. Let's make a group. You know, and so yeah, I started rapping there, and I would go to those shows at the Glass House, and this is back when between sets, like this is so backpackery, but people would like play instrumentals between sets. It wasn't like shows now where like it's all the DJs are the stars, and you put on the new Future banger, and everybody fucking jumps up down and shit. They were playing like fucking, you know, instrumental B-sides.
And people would go up and spit.
No, people would stand in the crowd and make circles and spit. And so I would get in ciphers at all these shows.
Yeah.
And I was just good at it. And so I was like, oh, this is like something I do now. And then I just started.
Can you freestyle?
Not anymore.
Damn, I was gonna.
You
ask
like
you to do a
physically
freestyle.
can't, or you just have decided that this
Listen,
is off-brand
No,
for
I'm like
you?
physically terrible at it. Like anyone that is not a rapper is probably better at me than freestyling.
Really?
I'm so bad. I'm very out of practice. I barely rap at all anymore. Like I haven't really written a song in a long time.
Right.
The last record I put out was in 14, and I've barely done anything since. So as far as like my swords are very rusty. So
Well, we could definitely talk about deciding to kind of move on past it, but I just want to know, like, how did you kind of move on with your career and stuff? Like,
well, I feel like everything that I've ever started, I've like.
Sorry, that was
Accidental air horn out of context is really weird. Yeah.
Everything that I've ever started, I've just kind of like taken really seriously. Like we talked about that, like we get obsessed with shit, you know?
Right,
what I mean?
yeah.
And so I didn't start rapping on some like half-ass shit. I was like, oh, I think I've secretly always wanted to do this, and now I have the opportunity. It seems because of the democratization of music production, like it just became easy to do.
Yeah.
So all you needed was one of these and one of those, and then you're good.
And it was perfect too because you had all this free time because
Ton
you
of
fucking
free
had
time.
the shitty luck with the drunk arrest.
Yeah, exactly. I you know, it was just like whatever. I was in college. I was barely going to class. I was like, I had done so well in high school that I was like just retaking courses that I had taken in high school, in college, and not going to class, just going and acing the quizzes. Boy genius, what's up? So I had tons of time to write raps, and so I took it very serious. And like me and that kid, we decided like we wanted to put out have a EP by the time that the school year ended, and we did. And then I found out about this Brooks Institute of Photography, and I applied there and went there and moved to Santa Barbara afterwards. But I kept in touch with him, and I would drive down to Pomona every once in a while, and we would record. And I just took it real serious, you know. And so like when I was in and then like probably my first 4 months in Santa Barbara, we made another EP, and I started handing it out all over the place to people. Like, and I would just sit in our computer lab at the college, and I would like stack up 3 or 4 CD burners and just be burning the CD until I had like 200 or 300 of them, and I would print out like shitty little pictures and had colored jewel cases.
Right.
And I would just hand them out to people, and then I was already I was like making friends with people in the music stores there, like the record stores, because that was like a thing then. I would go to the record store every Tuesday and buy new rap albums or buy whatever looked dope. I would just buy it on Tuesdays.
The game's changed,
Yeah, and so I became friends with one of the dudes at this place called Morning Glory Music, which I think is shut down now in Santa Barbara. And I was like, oh, I have this new EP. If any like underground hip hop fans that like these certain rappers, and I like listed rappers, I was like, if they like buy their stuff, give them one of these too, just for free. And so the guy that ended up that I still work with, named Mark, Equilibrium, he went into the CD store and bought a CD, and the dude was like, oh, hey, you make beats, don't you? He's like, yo, I know this rap kid. He wants me to give these CDs out. You should fuck with him. He's cool. And so he got a copy of the EP and then emailed me and sent me some beats, and then I went over to his house, and then we started working together. And that was in like 2003, so it's forever ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Early days.
Yeah, a long time ago.
I love that story, man. I just like how maybe I'm just nostalgic, but I like how it used to be.
Yeah.
Like the stories of the kids who like wouldn't be on a Warped Tour, but they'd follow the Warped Tour and sell their CDs to the kids in line and stuff like that.
Right.
It was very different, yeah.
It was. It just seems like it was a lot more physical in like actual.
It was so much luck too. Like, luck.
But there was a lot of like personal and like kind of sweat equity with it in terms of getting your album into the right hands and actually having a physical album. The kids like valuing that now. Now it's like everybody's online, and they're competing.
Click a link,
and it's like, how do they get their link to the right person? Like when you meet somebody face to face, like, here's my link. It just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, it's hard to care. But then, like, there's so many different elements when you're making mixtapes. Like, I remember I was reading a thing with fucking Jin, and he was talking about how in the original days of his career, it's like he hung out around the city and sold mixtapes. And made mad money, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars every day just selling tapes. And he had like a little level of like stardom or whatever, so he would hang out around like the clothing shops and everything. And that just sounds like such like a cool lifestyle for him, like making a couple $100 a day, selling your mixtape, building a following like that, because people actually were receptive to actually spending money on music like that.
There's still like 3 guys in Hollywood and Highland doing that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
But like, what?
That's the weird thing,
Like
is
Venice,
that would never
They're
work.
still
now.
trying.
Oh, I mean, I'm not that far removed from that. That's the thing. There was a time not long ago, like when I first moved to LA was only in 2007, so I've been here like almost a decade. But I mean, at that time, if you saw me at a show, I had a fucking box box in my hand with CDs that I would sell to people, and they had never heard of me. It was just that I would do this. I would talk to them, and after fucking 15 minutes of talking and cracking a few jokes, like they were like, okay, cool, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. Like I was a fucking door-to-door salesman, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so yeah, that has definitely changed, and it's like you're like really backwards hustling if you're doing that right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's cool to like have my roots in that, because I feel like it taught me about marketing in a really weird way. You know what I mean? Like it taught me about
Oh, really direct
being
way.
a personality. You feel me?
Yeah.
Or like having a personality, and learning that you had to have an angle with everything. So I had an angle with my fucking.
That's probably
hand-to-hand
helped you
sale.
getting laid too, right?
Oh fuck!
What-
I think here's the thing: is that I have this thing like which came first, the chicken or the egg? As a rapper, like, do you get laid because you're a rapper, or are you a rapper because you got laid? And,
Oh.
and I think that like the ones that succeed at rapping, they were already getting laid before any music success came along.
That's the theory.
That's the smoothness. Like you have to like be able to talk someone out of their clothes in order to like sound smooth on a beat, you know?
Interesting.
Good point.
See, I think that's the thing that happens now a lot, is that there's a lot of like internet SoundCloud superstars that pop up, and those are dudes who definitely were not getting laid before SoundCloud.
Yeah, if you can make music in your bedroom,
And that's what
never
makes
leave your
old school
bedroom.
heads mad. They're like,
If
Lil
you-
Yachty wasn't getting no pussy before fucking SoundCloud.
If you really think about all of your favorite rappers, I bet the one intangible that they have in common is that they're very charming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's such a huge measure of like success. That's why Jay-Z worked and Memphis Bleak didn't.
I was just
you know?
gonna say, like Jay-Z's, like he is a great rapper, but he's also the most charming rapper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only difference between like Slug from Atmosphere and a gazillion other white rappers is that Slug is charming as fuck. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference.
At the end of the day, it's like running for fucking president. It's like it's just the popularity contest, the charm contest. Like when they like Rocky stands out to me so much because he just seems like the most charming fucking dude on
Right,
earth.
right.
I look at Playboy Cardi and I kind of see some of that in him too, and I'm like, that's why people are so drawn to him even more than the music.
star
I think.
quality,
Yeah,
the X
They get
factor.
that feeling from him that you know he's just cool. You know?
Yeah, exactly. It's intangibles, man. Like, why is he cool? You can't put your finger on it, but you just know that he's cool. Like, you want to be around people like that.
Yeah.
Like,
So
why,
then you
why
wanna
does
listen.
Adam 22 have 300,000 followers on like YouTube? You know,
Neck tattoos.
And I don't feel
Neck
very
tats.
cool at all. I feel like this is all just hard work. I don't feel like the coolest dude in the world, but
no, you're lame. But
But now these young ass kids, like they seem like fooled into like believing that
we
I'm,
got
like,
you.
like they kind of just buy into it because it just is like a self fulfilling thing. Like the same way Nick Coletti can get 2,000 retweets on a photo of a bowl of cereal.
But like
He's a very artistic bowl of cereal.
yeah, I guess also everybody, they do have something. Like if a rapper was just a charming guy,
Yeah.
and didn't have any kind of talent or real raps or couldn't really bring something, didn't have that very specific kind of delivery or lyrical content or whatever the other part of it is, then you know maybe he would just be a vacuum salesman or something. You know,
Yeah, perhaps. I
There's
mean,
gotta be
there
it's a
definitely has to be.
combination.
It has to be a combination of like you have to have some artistic know-how or creative know-how penchant for that. But I think like when you really boil it down to like,
a super technical rapper versus like a
Right.
more simple rapper
Why-
who
why-
goes the distance.
right,
star,
right.
star quality.
why are Macklemore and G-Eazy the most popular white rappers? Because they're fucking handsome, charming dudes. You know what I mean? Currently, like that's.
I don't like
that's what-
Jeezy one bit.
I think we should have him
Like
on the podcast.
lyric, well, yeah, me too. He's very popular,
I mean,
but
he's very popular.
I just really don't like the way he raps, and I don't really
Someone
get
said
what other
about
people
him
are
that
hyped on.
he's the rap game Zara leather jacket.
Yeah,
I was like, oh.
I don't even know though. That's just I don't even know who he's copying. It just doesn't really sound good.
I mean,
to
the
me.
funny thing is, if you kind of like half plug your ears and listen to one after the other, they really have a very similar intonation in their voice.
Macklemore and Jeezy.
Their voices are like almost carbon copy. If I blur my ears a little
Okay.
bit, I don't know if blur your ears is a real thing.
No,
but you
I
know
have
what
a
I'm saying?
very tuned ear for a white rapper, and I can tell the difference.
Macklemore to me is just the king of overemphasis in every bar of just like over.
He cares a lot.
He's so woke.
We
He
care
is
a
the
lot.
ultimate woke. I listened to him on the New York Times
Yeah.
podcast with John Caramanica talking about his song "White Privilege 2."
Yeah.
And it's like after he came out on the scene and stuff, they hired like race coaches and shit to
Yeah.
like really help him be mega PC and understand his privilege and stuff. And hearing him talk about it was just kind of like, damn, dude. Like,
Funniest thing about that dude is like like his good intentions are killing him. Like he
Yeah.
tried to help. Like he was like, this song's to help all the gays out there, and they're like, yo, Macklemore, we got this. We don't need you.
No, but that song was like outrageously popular. I
They
think
hate him, but the
that
gay-
song probably helped the
like-
gays a shitload.
Not the gays, but gays. They hated him, like for that. Like they
You
were
think?
like, they felt like he was like adopting the culture and the struggle to sell records.
But that's what's funny to me is like, there's no way that like authentic like gay people in Los Angeles like that song. But don't you think that like the 14-year-old kid who's scared to death to come out of the closet loved that song?
I don't know that kid.
and it doesn't explain how popular it was because
Well, I also think like of course we're not learning anything from that song because we're
Exactly,
all
yeah.
gay and shit. But
Well, yeah, we're all gay as fuck, yeah.
I was asking for a high five. Yeah,
Roseman sucked Intuition's dick before we did this.
But no, I mean we're all
Cum in his
smoking.
hair right now.
We're all smoking
Rope
penises.
gang.
We're all smoking penises. But
Real talk. That's my favorite joke right now. It won't get old no matter how many times.
what does Brandon Wardell say? Hey, hit this cum.
I don't know. Nicoletti's always saying that.
Coletti
Hit this
started that.
cum.
But I mean, the point is like, yeah, we're not learning anything from that because we live in a fucking big ass city and we're around like all kinds of people. But you got to think about like the people that are fucking passing bills against transgender
Right, yeah,
bathroom
yeah.
privileges
Yes.
or whatever. Those kids in high school are going like,
Hey,
oh
man.
wow, I didn't know that gay people, it's okay to like them. That's cool.
Hey man,
Yeah.
you hear that Macklemore song? Apparently, gay guys have souls.
I mean, I like Macklemore, and he thought he was gay at one point.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
in the third grade, apparently.
Because in small towns now, I think it's more common to hear, I'm cool with everybody, whatever they want to do. As long as you don't try to fuck me or my family, then it's cool. Like that has almost replaced like like back in the 90s, it was like, that's gross, that's disgusting, I don't want anything to do with that, blah, blah, blah. Like now it's so much more common to hear even dumb people kind of be like, yeah, it's cool. That's them. It's not me.
funny thing about like G-Eazy is
He's
like
gay.
he
No, he's straight as fuck.
like was kind of. I think I heard about him 5 or 6 years ago when he was in like New Orleans or something. And
He's from Oakland.
Oh, yeah, he's from SF, yeah.
So I thought he was coming up the same time as this dude, T. Mills, Travis Mills.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I know him a little bit. We got him a bike.
Neck tats.
I actually never met
He's
him,
on
but
that.
we
He's
gave
on a
him bike.
Netflix show now. The one that's placed in Venice. The one that takes place in Venice.
What's it called?
That's the newest one with
Will Arnett.
It's
He-
called.
he-
Is it
Flaked.
Vinyl?
Flaked.
Flake.
No,
He's
oh,
the
okay.
coffee guy in that shit.
I gotta watch that tonight.
The only
Really?
reason I knew about him was shout out to Syra. Syra was on like Warp Tour with him, and I was like, "Who is this guy?"
Syra with blue hair or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Like
I met her at
shout out to all
Skrillex's
my
house.
lost boys. Yeah, she got a Grammy because of Skrillex. She came up with like us, or she came up with. She was like part of our scene, the underground backpack LA rap scene.
I got her number and I texted her. She never hit me back, so tell her like,
Damn,
that's fucked up.
Syra. I haven't talked to her in years, but
I'm gonna text her right now.
oh, actually, I saw her the other week.
T
but
Mills shouted out on some shit on Instagram.
That's tight.
Really? We should get him on here, man.
That
So,
would be cool.
The funny thing is like I've never like really cracked off as a rapper, and I have no shame in saying that.
Yeah,
Like,
you
I
feel that way, or did you have
I
like
do.
a fan base?
I mean, I have a fan base. Like, here's the thing: is that my metrics are weird. Like, I have metrics small enough for people to think like I'm not popping. You know what I mean? And I like stay low key enough to and like don't really put myself out there like that to where I go to parties and people have no idea what I do type of thing. And then when I tell them, they're like, "Oh, wait, you do that thing? That's you that does that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And so, but the thing is, even though like I only have 7,000 something Twitter followers, I sell out shows when I throw them because
Right.
I'm good at marketing, and like the kids, the 7,000 followers that I do have, like they're very
Real fans,
supportive of what we do, and so shout out to all of them. Like I'm not a like no one's following me on Twitter because it's cool, you know what I
Right.
mean? They're following me on Twitter because like they actually care about the shit that I do,
Right.
which is tight. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
So my point is that I never really cracked off, but I remember at the time that I thought that I was going to crack off was like around 2009, 2010. And I was like fully in the shit at that point, and I had just gotten my tonsils removed because if you listen to my first record, I had tonsils in, and the whole time it sounds like I'm rapping like this.
I
Like,
think I need my tonsils off for that reason. I kind of sound a little stuffed up sometimes.
yo, if you get your I always say like if you are,
You should get a nose job too, because it's kind of fucked
Damn.
up.
Liposuction,
you should get your butthole bleached.
Ooh.
dick reduction.
No, hold on. The butthole thing makes sense because you like
I don't like.
a little butt play.
I've
He
had
likes a little
girls,
butt play.
not butt play. I've never had a finger or anything.
He
in it,
enjoys
just
a
the
little
mouth.
butt play.
Shorty, what that mouth do? I'm talking about the mouth of my asshole.
My brother was just telling me about one of his construction buddies. He's like, you would crack up. He's like this guy that like never takes off his Carhartts and he's always looks dirty as shit. But he has his wife wax his asshole once a month because it makes it easier to wipe his ass after shitting.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
I think that's.
I like that.
I thought that was
That's
an
just
astounding.
that's
story.
just science, bro.
That is
Yeah. I've been shaving my asshole since I was a little kid. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow, you shave.
I'll take like the razor in the shower and just like
Ooh,
Well,
that
he's got
seems scary.
tats in his butthole too.
no, I don't. Shut the fuck up.
Enter here.
Aim here.
No, but it's just like if you have mad hair all around your asshole, then like wiping becomes a fucking real
No, I
chore.
braid mine.
Oh shit, that's
Obviously,
problematic.
yeah.
You got
That's
the
very
you got,
problematic.
You,
Dreadlocks.
you got the beaver dreads in your butthole.
Listen, if we both go to jail, let's see what happens to both of us.
If you have dreadlocks in your butthole,
You got
oh
a nice
my
waxed,
God.
bleached butthole.
I've never waxed my asshole, but I'm super down. If there's any girls out there who want to wax an asshole, hit up any of us, but specifically me.
We'll do it on this table on the pod.
Wouldn't that be great if we did it just out of frame and we were having our asshole waxed and like we're just like sitting here screaming?
Oh yeah, just your head, like here,
Yeah,
and
like
your ass.
I'm like this, and there's like a little like Asian girl down here, and she's waxing my butthole. That would
Oh
be
my
fucking
God.
very
I'm
weird.
over here describing it.
Yeah, damn, I love this. This is great. This is brilliant.
I'm glad that I could help with that tangent.
So
okay, so wait. Let me
Yeah,
let me
you were about
finish
to
what I
crack
said.
off.
So I was thinking I was gonna crack off. It was like 2009. I got my tonsils taken off. My voice had just changed. I had this song called Al Bundy that started cracking around LA, and it was getting like a little bit of radio play at night in LA and shit. It was crazy, and I was like the first. I was like one of the first, if not the first, like rapper from this little small LA backpacker scene that was starting to get placement on blogs on my own. Like I was just like hitting up Two Dope Boys and hitting up like Pigeons and Planes was hella early. Like it was early on before they were as big as they are now. And I was getting placements on all these. And at this time in like 2009, 2010. Or 2008, 2009, 2010. That was like a big deal still. Like blogs were a big deal.
Yeah.
I would go to shows and people would be like, yo, man, I saw that Two Dope Boys post. Congratulations.
Yeah,
like, that type
yeah.
of shit. And so I was like, oh, shit, like this is about to happen. And I put out this record called Girls Like Me. And I thought that was like the one that was going to crack me off. And, you know, just from not being ready and also like being too late of an adopter to music videos. I think that was one of the main problems. The point of this whole long-winded story is when I knew that G-Eazy was going to crack off was in like 2010. There was this remember that song that came out by Jai Paul where it was like oh fuck, I forget how it goes now, but it was this dope ass song and everybody was talking about it and all these rappers immediately started rapping over. But I was like literally the first rapper to rap over this Jai Paul beat, and I remember sending it to Pigeons and Planes, but then like the next day they posted or like 2 days later they didn't post mine, but they posted this one of G-Eazy rapping over it, and I hit him up like, yo, why you posting G-Eazy's but not mine? Like it's the same fucking thing. And then I was like, oh, this kid's gonna blow the fuck up. Like that's why they posted
When
it.
you heard it, you
BTSTU.
Yeah, BTSTU. Yeah, exactly. That's the song.
You didn't go by Free X, did you?
No, I don't know. I've always been Intuition. It's
Okay.
like a stupid backpacker name. So
So, was it just like kind of because it's weird to think of like when dudes are rappers as young men and then
Yeah.
they kind of gradually transition over it. Like, how's this transition been for you? Because you've moved into podcasting.
it's kind of
we gotta
recent.
talk about that
for
a
me.
lot.
Well, it's kind of recent. The quote unquote transition.
What's your main hustle right now? Photography?
Yeah, my main revenue is photography,
Oh, okay.
which is crazy because like I didn't after I got a bachelor's degree in commercial photography, but after having a bunch of like shitty jobs in the outskirts of the photo industry, I was like, I don't want to be a photographer. Photographers are fuckheads, and like this industry sucks. And then lo and behold, like I ended up being in the industry anyway. So yeah, that's my main revenue. And then yeah, music and podcasting shit is like my second hustle basically. And I kind of look at them as the same thing right now because one of them, or like they both build on top of each other. You know what I mean? I initially started the podcasting to stay relevant while I wasn't doing the music, and then now the podcast becomes more popular if I put out music. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
yeah.
it's one of those things. But yeah, the transition out it's new for me. 'Cause
Was
I
it
don't
like
know.
a real decision? Like,
No,
I want
it's
to move
just-
on
nah,
a little bit?
not really. Yeah, I'm not the dude that's gonna like be like, oh, I'm fucking retiring. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because I think that's like a fucking thirsty ass thing to do, and it's just like asking
Right.
for your last bit of attention. And I still like fuck around with music and But I mean, I'm like I said, I'm going to be 35, and like it never became my main revenue.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, why would I keep it? I feel like at a certain point, if you don't just admit like, yo, this is a really great hobby that I have, and a lot of people like my hobby. And you're like still, if you're in my position, still trying to be like, I'm gonna make it one day, I'm gonna be on MTV,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on the radio.
But isn't it weird how like rapping as like a hobby is viewed as this thing where if you're not successful at it, then you're like a dumbass.
But even
Well, that's
as
not-
a hobby, I'm like so much more successful at it than most people that are trying
Yeah,
really
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the whole point. Is like since I don't really give a fuck about blowing up, I don't really give a fuck about touring, and I don't care about. I just don't really give a shit. Like I just write what I want to write, and I put out what I want to put out. And it's for me, it's less about like rapping and proving anything. It's more like, oh, I get to do like creative shit with my friends. Like I get to work with my friend Mark, who makes these dope beats, and then we make cool songs together, and it makes both of us feel good. Then I get to work with my friend Kyle and make these music videos, and
Right.
people react to those. Am I like sweating so much that I'm dripping right now? I need to take this sweatshirt off.
I
Yeah,
saw one
it is a
drip.
little
I saw
hot in
one
here.
drip.
That
I
was
don't know what it
crazy.
Adam, what you're saying is basically, I think the problem is like rapping versus building model airplanes. It's like guy who builds model
Right.
airplanes isn't talking about like I'm
He's
the,
already
I'm the best
accepted, yeah.
motherfucker and this.
I mean,
you know?
but rap is so
is such-
youth-oriented
but
that
there's
it's
the
such a
bravado
brag, a
and like,
thing.
yeah,
But
bragging.
it's weird because it's like you're a 35-year-old dude, but you're good at rapping, and you could make a song where you talk about yourself, and like there's a value in that, regardless of if
Right.
1,000 people hear it or 100,000 people hear it. It's
Right.
like, you know, that to
I don't
me
know.
is
Yeah, it's fucked up.
Well,
too. It's like,
don't get me wrong. It's like there's rappers that are much older than me that are still very successful, and they're still at the peak of their
Who?
craft. You know, like Run the Jewels is doing great.
I'm just saying, Jay-Z got old. He changes his style. They came from him. They came from
I mean,
him.
Jay-Z
like
is
Eminem,
Jay-Z
they
is a
came
great
from him.
example of like he was the peak, and then but that's the thing is like everyone has to fall after a while, and I already feel it in myself of like I'm not as good at it as I once was, which is
Right.
another reason why I'm like more tentative to try and make that like my main thing because I don't want to like put out shit that I don't really believe in.
Well, Jay-Z has done a good job of stepping away
He stepped
relatively
away.
classfully.
Yeah, he stepped away
You know,
classy, and
he's still
he
done
moved
it,
on,
but-
and he's a businessman. With
Right,
it,
yeah.
you know what I mean? So-
And I heard somebody talking about a conversation that Jay-Z had where it was like the reason why he can't put together an album now is because he's so far away from the kind of shit that he wants to talk about or that he regards as like the
Right.
kind of shit he's going to talk about. It's like it's hard for him to go back 20 years, 30 years and remember being a hungry ass kid selling crack or whatever the fuck he wants to talk about, you know?
Well, I mean, half of being charming is also being relatable.
Right.
And who the fuck can relate to the fact that you are married to the most beautiful woman in the music industry? You're a multi-millionaire, if not billionaire. Like you're a
One of the
record
most
label
respected
executive,
musicians
Yeah, like
ever. Yeah.
you know, you own.
I get it, but these kids,
We
they
Yeah,
all
exactly.
know you're richer than
I
almost
know what
everyone
it's
that-
like to
yeah.
have a PJ and shit. Be on the PJ drinking BJs. You feel me?
What's up?
But
It's
like
that
what?
rapper shit.
Yeah, you feel me? But what does I mean? Like, yeah, the average person cannot relate to owning fucking 3 houses and going to the Hamptons for vacation. So
Yeah.
like, what is he supposed to talk about? And even in my
And
case,
he knows
like,
he puts an album out like that, nobody gives a fuck.
Right.
Everybody's gonna be grossed out. Oh, Jay-Z's
and at the,
lame.
but at
yeah.
this, yeah, and at the same time, the last record that he put out, when he had like a few like young sounding references, and people were like, "Give me a fucking break," you know. So
Yeah.
it's really a catch-22 when you get to a certain point. And even with myself on a very small scale, I felt that way where I'm like, all of a sudden, over the last 5 years, I haven't had a day job. Like I've been living off of creative endeavors and kind of doing what I want and being comfortable. You know, I have health insurance. I have fucking, I have a car that I lease. I'm not struggling. I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
And even then, I can feel myself like that literal not being hungry affects like the music making hunger. You
Right.
feel me? Like, what do I have to talk about? Like, all of a sudden, if you just talk about like depression, then you just sound like a whiny ass bitch the whole time. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, if that's my only problem to talk about,
And
that's
you're
not-
always going to be compared to your earlier work. So all your fans already, like if you are in a different place in your
Yeah.
mind, it's like they're going to kind of look at you and be like, well, maybe I don't want to listen to him anymore, which is a weird thing.
totally, and that's natural too. Like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna age with you throughout your record process. I've been lucky with how just my trajectory has gone. Where like my records have continually gotten better, like objectively better. I don't think anyone could like really say that my first record is better than my last record. You know what I
Right.
mean? Which is cool. And so that's the thing too. Like I've gotten trapped in that kind of like, oh, what do I do now? Because I feel like my last record I put out was really good, and I'm like scared that I don't want to put out a shittier record than the last one.
Yeah, you're kind of in a really good spot if you think about it. You did the groundwork.
Yeah.
You did the you pressed the flesh. You met the people, met the fans. You built this base. now you're kind of feeding that base with podcasts and stuff you're doing online.
Right.
If you ever have some like
the desire to put out another one, people will wait for it,
and you can put it online and not have to get out there and be like having
that's
demos.
that's the other thing. The way that we've set it up is like I said, the people that follow us and they wait patiently. Like they're not. Some of them are like rude and get antsy about like, when are you putting out more music? Like, yo, quit tweeting and put out some music. And it's like, oh god. But in general, I think the people that we've attracted to our music are patient, and like even if we don't put out another record for 2 more years, like when it finally comes out, they'll be like, oh, thank you,
right?
Like, and that's cool to me. Like being as like ultra independent as we are. We don't have a timeline,
right,
which is nice. Like I'm not worried about falling off because I don't care, and I'm not worried about like not being relevant when I put the next record out, because like who cares? Right. You know what I mean? I just don't.
Let's talk about how you started the podcast. What was the desire that made that happen?
That trajectory started in about 2011.
Right.
My last 9-to-5 job was shitty. It was like I was like a printer at this retouching house, and I hated it. And do you guys know Dumbfounded?
I've heard this name a million times, but I'm not like familiar with it. No.
So he's like my Korean rapper friend.
Right. Oh yeah. I've seen him actually. Then
yeah, he's cool. And so we came up together in like the circles of backpacker rap, and he had this really smart manager at the time, and they were starting to get into content creation, and some of the shit they were doing was starting to go viral. And I'm very much like I'm quick to recognize shit that's starting to crack. Mm-hmm. Same with you. I'm sure you are too. But I'm also on some like if you can't beat them, join them type of shit too. Mm-hmm. Where I'm like, oh, that shit's dope. I want to be down with what they're doing. So I hit him up like, yo, what you guys are doing is cool, or what you guys are doing is cool, and yada yada yada. And his manager was like, oh, well, come in and have a meeting with us, and let's see if you can help with stuff like writing or whatever for the site, because they were just making a content portal. And the day that I was supposed to have a meeting, I got laid off from that job. So I was like, oh, shit. So I bought some beers.
Why were you fired?
I wasn't fired. I got laid off. They were downsizing.
Oh, okay.
That job basically was like I had gotten to the glass ceiling of like I was making a certain amount per hour, and they were like, okay, we need to fire him. We need to get rid of him and get a new goon that'll do it for $12 an hour,
Right.
And so so I bought some beers and a pizza, and I went to that meeting, and I went like, okay, this meeting has like a whole new level of intensity for me because I need a job now.
Right.
And so I was like, I really want to like join you guys with what you guys are doing. So that year I started working with this company called Knocksteady. And they initially hired me to just like write stuff for the website or like take pictures for the website. So I was going to shows and shooting and yada yada yada.
Right.
But very quickly it was realized like, oh, you can like do a lot more than this. And so I started kind of taking initiative and started this show. They had done like one live stream that they called like Knocksteady Live Friday or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, yo, this is like the coolest shit you guys have done. Why aren't you doing this like every week, So that's what we started doing. I started doing this show called Knocksteady Live, and it was like 3 pieces of content in an hour. It was like this, where we would do a podcast and we would live stream it. And then we would have the artist perform. It was kind of like an NPR type thing where they would come in and I would interview an artist that I knew, and they would do like 4 songs, and then I would interview them between each song. And then we would put it out as an audio podcast, and then like we would take the best song they performed and put that out as a video, and that shit started to catch on like real fast. And I didn't know anything about podcasts. I barely knew what a podcast was at the time. But
what year are we talking?
This is 2011.
Okay.
And so
damn, early, yeah.
What's that?
That's early.
Yeah, and so we lucked out. We had some big guests on. Like we had Macklemore on.
Really?
Yeah, he did this song. He did that song "Can't Hold Us" like 2 years before it was on the radio. He was doing it on our channel. He was doing it on every channel at that point. But we were Vince Staples' first video ever on the internet. We had. I don't know. We had all kinds of big people at the time. Like for us at the time, like Merce was a big deal. We had Merce on, like Evidence and shit like that. But yeah, I don't know. So I started doing that. We were doing like 2 a week, and before you knew it, I had like 75 episodes of that. And then some turmoil started happening within the company, and it got bought out by some big YouTube conglomerate. and I just didn't get invited to go along. It's kind of a long story that I've never really told, and it was kind of shady. Like I left a bitter taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I lost some friends from that. But in hindsight, now I look at it and I'm like, oh, maybe the dude that I thought was fucking me over, maybe he actually like kind of saved me, because they all went to this YouTube company and just basically had like normal day jobs, whereas like what we were doing was more, you know, like this, where you get to do
they
whatever
didn't
you want.
continue, like your role wasn't taken over by like a Carson Daly type guy at YouTube.
No. So that's the thing, is that those who know that I was the one like really brand managing that whole thing, as
Right.
far as not the clothing. It was like they were doing clothing and all kinds of shit, but I wasn't doing the clothing. I was just the content creator or creation manager. So I was like, I was the producer, booking all the acts, doing all the curation, you know, like just all that shit. Like the one who was like up on shit, the one that was like cool and like knew how to email people to get them to come on the show.
Yeah.
And you know, so pretty much every artist that got broken on there was like because of me. And once it got bought out and I wasn't there, it was like the quality of the content like quickly digressed.
Yeah.
So someone they did try to keep it going.
They tried to keep it going, but I mean, like, there's no one
I'm
that
just
can
asking,
do.
like, was it someone that did they replace you with somebody new, or did someone in the company take you?
They were like they were like hiring like little kids to do it, like little.
Okay.
little
But was the success mostly like based on like your involvement, but they just didn't recognize that?
No, they recognized it. It was based on. That's the thing. There's so many levels to it. It's such a long
Like,
story.
why wouldn't they take you with? Did they have someone great?
There
to
was like
replace you?
there was just
were too expensive.
I fucked up in like the Game of Cards scenario type of thing. Basically, like there was all right, so I was supposed to do a podcast with this guest that I was like really wanting to do a podcast with, and I was very excited about it. And then all of these quarrels started going on within the company, and it was about to like shit was about to go down, and they were trying to decide whether to sell the company or whether to like stay just at independent and blah 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 blah. And but it basically came to this point where it was like, okay, look, we're going to put a halt on all content creation right now. Like, just everybody keep your lips sealed. And it was right around Christmas, and they're like, we'll get back together at the first of the year and start working again. And I'm like, all right, cool. But I run into this guy at a store. Like, I see the guy from the podcast, and I say, hey, like, yeah, I got to put off that podcast that we're supposed to do. I'm bummed because I really wanted to do it, but like, we have to, we just got to put it off. And he's like, oh, really? How come? And I just got blabbermouth syndrome because I got nervous around the dude, and I was like,
Who was it?
I'm not gonna say that. I'll tell you guys off air, but I just don't want to, like. There's no reason. But I start telling him all this shit of like, oh yeah, there's like quarrels going on within the company, and like it's getting like the clothing side and the content side are getting mad at each other, and it might break up, and we might sell, and blah blah blah. And I just like blabbed all this shit. I'm like, why did I just do that? As I was walking out of the store, seeing him, I'm like, why did I just do that? I just knew it was the wrong maneuver.
Right.
And so then the company gets sold, and the dude who was like the one who had started the company, who was kind of like the big idea guy. If I was the like day-to-day production operation manager, this was like the big idea guy / salesman, business snake dude.
Right.
He was at this YouTube company, and he's trying to like pitch to brands to like sign up to this YouTube company, and lo and behold, the dude that I had said all that stuff to was one of the people that he was going to pitch to, and I didn't know that. And so they had that meeting. Say they had a meeting, and he goes, "Oh yeah, my proof in case is Knoxsteady," and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, Knoxsteady." He's like, "I've heard of that. I was supposed to fuck with you guys, right? Like, I heard you guys were like breaking up or something. Like, what's up with that?" And so then the guy that like owned the company comes back to me, has a lunch. He's like, yo, I need to talk to you about something. Like, how come so-and-so knew this about that? And I said, oh, shit. And then he thinks that I'm, like, conspiring behind his back.
Yeah.
Like, were you out looking for jobs because of this and that? And like, why are you telling people this? Why does he know my business? Why is it da-da-da-da-da? And I'm going, like, look, man, I just fucked up. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't know that this was going to come bite me in the ass. It was, like, literally a 5-minute thing. It wasn't anything, like, it wasn't, like, on purpose or done with any spite. I just fucked up. And so then when the company gets bought out, everybody from the company goes to this YouTube company and starts working there, except for me. But the silver lining in that is that then I was free to go do the other shit, which is like, now I'm making way more money than I would have been there.
So you started kind of neat immediately?
No. So I took a year. I was very fucking depressed when I didn't get brought along, because that was really, like, that company, Knoxsteady, that was like 2011 was like the brokest I've ever been, because I was on unemployment the whole time. I like they were paying me dick under the table.
Right.
But it was like the one time in my life that I was like so fucking passionate about something.
Yeah.
And like I learned so much about myself because I didn't know that I could host a podcast. I didn't know that I could be a producer. I didn't know that I could be a content creator. Like I didn't know that I could market basically. Like I had accidentally Mr. Miyagi'd myself like with all these like skills from being a shit rapper
Right.
and trying to like sell hand-to-hand CDs to people that I didn't realize like, oh wait, I can apply this on a fucking much bigger scale, you know?
Right.
And so that year was like, it's like it was like the best year of my life as far as like being passionate about something.
Right.
So I'm so thankful for that year. But when it fell through, I was like the most depressed ever. It was like your fucking grandparent and your girl, or like your grandparent dying and your girlfriend leaving you at the same time or something. Like it was
Wow,
the worst
yeah.
pit in my stomach.
And you had no idea that you could do this on your own at that point.
Well, no, I knew I could do it on my own because I was already doing all that shit. Like I was already like, look, I knew that as soon as they didn't have me, like their shit was gonna fail.
Right.
Because that curation, like it came all from like way back here. Like no one else could do that, and I knew that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't tripping about that. Like I was like, as spiteful as it is to say, I was like, I was comfortable in the fact that shit was gonna fail. But I was like, I didn't know what to do to restart on my own because.
Yeah.
They had given me a platform because they had a little money behind it,
Right.
and they had equipment and this, that, and the other. So I took 2012 kind of off from content creation. I started writing more songs and like getting together the record that I eventually put out. And I started traveling a lot, shooting photos with my best friend who had just gone independent as a photographer. And then in like the end of 2012, Daddy Kev, shout out to Daddy Kev who runs Alpha Pup and Low End Theory. He was opening a new studio, Cosmic Zoo, and so him and another dude that was helping him open it were like, "Yo, we're looking for cool shit to happen in the studio. Do you want to start a podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure. I want to get back to podcasting. That would be dope." So I went in and saw the studio, and I saw that like comic book wall in there,
Right.
and I was like, "Oh shit, I can like." Totally do just my favorite parts of what I was doing at Knocksteady, which was like the performances and the podcast,
Yeah.
and like not all the other bullshit that I was doing. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm such a mess. I'm just like sweating everywhere.
Take your shirt off.
Yeah, take a shirt.
I'm
Well,
gonna take my shirt off because I'm trying to like.
we got about 20 minutes left.
It's cool.
So.
I just saw it and I was like, oh, cool. I can like do all the parts of the content that I like again and just have like a bare bones team because it's just me and Ben. It's just me and one other dude. You met Ben.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just do all the same shit that I was doing that year, but without as much like. Just without as much pressure of like, you know, needing to meet deadlines or you know what I mean? Like I just like working for myself. Like I don't like working for people. And so, you know, and I love curating things and I just I've created this brand that just makes sense to me in my head, and I don't know that anyone else would be able to like do the exact curation that I do. You know what I'm saying?
How would you
It's so
describe the
specific.
podcast style to anybody who doesn't?
I like totally stole Mark Maron's whole setup. Like I do an intro beforehand,
Right.
and then I interview the people for an hour about their upbringing and their emotional stability and it's a total Maron ripoff, but rather than like comedians and famous people, it's independent musicians essentially.
Right, independent musicians. So,
Yeah.
like, from the very beginning, like, what kind of artists, like, who were your ideal guests that would make sense on this, and who did you get early on? And
Well, so the reason that Knocksteady Live started working so instantly was just because I had a lot of friends that were already independent musicians, like everyone in our scene. I was like, I have all these talented friends, and they're not getting any shine,
Right.
So like people that are getting shine now that were like some of our early guests. Probably the biggest one, Anderson .Paak.
Yeah.
Like I was his. He used to go by Breezy Lovejoy. That was. He was like maybe our third or fourth podcast ever
Right.
at Knocksteady Live, and he used to go by Breezy Lovejoy back then. So I was like, oh, this kid's super talented. We got to have him on the show. And now look, he's like one of the biggest up and comers.
Yeah.
Other ones are like Mike Eagle, Open Mike Eagle. Have you heard of him?
yeah.
He was like just a real old friend of mine, and he was one of my early podcasts. And so with Kind of Neat, it was just like that, where I was like going to access my friends again,
Yeah.
Yeah, your top. I mean, I was looking at Knocksteady TV on YouTube and Kind of Neat. You
Yeah.
both got 60K followers now.
Right,
like
right.
You equaled them, and it's like your top is Kali Uchis.
Yeah, Kali
Right,
Uchis.
yeah. But you did an interview with her that never came out.
No, it came out, but I had to take it down.
back,
But
yeah.
it's been archived. And at this point, the reason that she wanted me to take it down was just because she had spilled the beans about people that she was collabing with. But that's like wide open now because she had mentioned that she was collabing with Tyler
Right.
on the podcast, and I don't think she was supposed to say that yet.
Right.
So she was like, "Hey, could you just take it down?" And I took it down. I don't care. Like that's fine because I knew the video was gonna be so fucking golden anyways.
I probably would have told her to fuck off.
Adam won't take shit down.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I just took it down because I didn't want to burn that bridge for the future because I'm just a fan of hers. I think she's a real cool person.
I'm burning.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell her, hey, don't say stuff you're not supposed to on a podcast.
Well, she was very green at the time. She'd had no press almost at the time, you know. And then very soon after that, it was like Fader and everything was all on her jock. But I mean, the funny thing is, if you just Google Kali Uchis kind of neat, like it's on Daily Motion.
Everybody thought it was super funny because I filmed like a vlog type thing at the FTP pop-up shop on Fairfax, and she showed up with Gleesh, who she's dating, which I don't know if you know that or not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they put out. I didn't know that we were supposed to say that, but then they put out a Christmas card together, and he showed up in an old school to this thing, and I'm filming him, and it says at Young Gleesh in the corner, but it doesn't say anything about her because I didn't know who it was. I'm like, oh, it's this blonde girl because I don't fucking watch MTV or
so funny.
I don't listen to modern R&B music enough, I guess, or whatever the fuck her music's called. I don't know anything about it, to be honest.
Wait, were you not supposed to put him up though? Like they were trying to keep the relationship a secret?
I thought it was a little secret at first, but then they put out like a Christmas card on Twitter together, so I guess it's all good.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's DMV.
Are you
shit
looking
right
at
there.
you're looking at like the stats next to each other right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at Kali Uchis. It's got
Oh,
1.7 million. Then Kitty Pride at
Yeah,
1 point.
Kid, yeah.
like 1
What
million,
made you want to do the live in-house performance as well? And like, you've really honed it over the years, right?
It's great. It's mixed well. It sounds
Thank you.
great.
Yeah,
the
Ben is
audio quality's crazy.
Yeah, Ben's a super talented engineer, and then Kev, Daddy Kev, that owns the studio, is like a super prolific gear collector and gear expert.
We should have Ben mix this podcast.
I don't think he's down. He has like a day job.
I want him to auto tune me.
You should get the auto tune for it's easy. But yeah, Ben's an amazing engineer, so all the performances sound great. I think the inspiration behind that was I come from a time where making music videos was hard when I was coming up. My first music video wasn't until 2009, you know, and it was shitty. It wasn't even in HD, and you know. It's funny, like the big difference between what I was doing and what Mac Miller was doing at the time was like Mac Miller's team bought a fucking SLR and they were shooting HD videos, and it was like you put the
Tree JTV, baby.
Yeah, it totally. Like I really think that was a huge part in him blowing up because he was such an early adopter to those music videos. You know, now
Music
everyone
videos
does
in
it.
general, like such a big part of a rapper's brand when they come out. 21 Savage's videos are insane, and that just does so much for him.
They just weren't. They weren't even a thing that was like really possible when I was coming up.
Right.
Like that was insane to have a music video.
That era, it was a big advantage if you had somebody around you that knew how to make videos.
And it was really only a matter of months between like the people who were the early adopters and the people who were like trying to catch up. And unfortunately, I was just one of those people that was trying to catch up. And then once we figured it out, though, like my music videos do good for what they are. So anyway, point being is that I wanted to just give artists who are on the come up like another platform of like it's easy content and it's good content. It makes them sound good and it displays their talent in a very simple way, and it also puts everybody on an even playing field.
Right.
Because you know there's a science behind why everyone's standing in front of the same wall. I don't do it for it to be boring. I do it because like everyone's in an equal playing field. You recognize the set, you know what it is and what it's going to sound like.
Consistency.
Yeah, it's consistent, and so you know I the thing that I really love about our videos is that one of the most common comments that we get is, I like this version better than the one on the record.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, too. It's because, like, by the time they're coming in to perform them, these are songs that they've been performing live for a while. They're more confident with it. They understand the nuances of the song, and they've been performing them, and they know they understand their own song better than they did when they recorded it.
Right.
And then they're only doing it with one track rather than being allowed to be, you know, lazy and dub over it and shit. So,
but a lot of artists can't do this. They can't do their whole song, right?
well, yeah, and that's part of my curation too. Is I really try to pick people that I'm pretty sure are going to be a talent at that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or pretty sure they're out of the. I think we've done like 80 videos, and out of those 80 videos, there's really only like 2 or 3 that have been tough as far as the number of takes. You know what I mean?
So they usually do take a bunch of takes.
Only a couple of them have, is what I'm saying.
But most people get first go, or
No, not first go, but I mean, most people get it within like 2 or 3 takes, maybe.
Right.
There have been some where it's been like
40 tries.
I not 40, but I would say like there's probably been somebody that's done like at least 30.
Yeah.
And I don't really even remember who it was.
Does that ever get awkward?
No, that's the thing, is that coming from the other,
You understand,
the
yeah,
other
as an
reason,
artist.
the other reason that I think artists are willing to like let us do this with them, because that is something that's very valuable content to them.
Yeah.
And it can be bad, but I think that like we've not put out a bad performance video, and if
Right.
ever there was one video that we never put out because it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
And I'm understanding and I'm empathetic of that. Being an independent artist myself, like, I'm not trying to make anyone feel like shit, and I understand what vibes are about, and I understand what it's like to be in a studio and feel uncomfortable. So our whole goal is like, yo, while you're performing, I'm an elder statesman as well, and I've been through this, and so I understand like what it's like to feel nervous in front of people. So I'm just like, look, man, take a deep breath, have a
Yeah.
sip of water, like relax. Like I know this light is bright, but this is a million people looking at you. Like perform like it's a show, like you're not in the studio, and that kind of shit helps, and people react kindly to it. And I think a lot of people walk out of our sessions feeling like, that it was a good time. It was a solid piece of content. It was a good interview, and then they got a good piece of content for very little effort, because it's high return on investment for very low effort to do those live performance videos. So, yeah.
It's true.
Anyway,
Has what about your skills as an interviewer growing over the years? Have you really like felt like you've improved since you
Yeah.
started, and in what
Yeah.
ways?
Well, we talked a little bit about this on ours. When I first started, I was like trying to be a little pseudo Nardwuar type thing.
Digging
where-
deep.
Yeah. Well, I remember like one of our big interviews on Knox City Live was Krayshawn.
Okay.
Because it was like the week after. I remember when Gucci Gucci popped off, I was at home in Alaska, and I already knew who she was because of Speak, because I've been friends with Speak for like forever.
Oh, okay.
And so he was telling me, I have this girl, Krayshawn, she's going to pop off. And I was at home and I watched the video that day blowing the fuck up, and I went, oh shit, I'm not in LA. Like this is bad, because by the time I get home, she's going to be too big.
Yeah.
So I get on the horn from Alaska, and I'm trying to hook that up, and I get her in this Knox City Live to do an interview, even before Complex did anything about her, or Fader, or anybody, And but I met up with Speak beforehand, because I was like, yo, I want to be like super prepared for this interview, because it's going to be a good big look. So like, tell me her whole life story and every like weird fact that you know about her. And I took all these notes. So then during the interview, I'm going like, oh, so tell me about this pink car that you said. She's like, whoa, how'd you know that? And like, that was my thing back then, was like trying to know shit about people. It's so tiresome, and Nardwuar's already the best at that. So like for me, I'm like, why even try? So now I go into a podcast honestly ignorant most of the time. Like, I know very little about these people. Sometimes like for example, like when I had the sesh on, I was like intimidated going into that, because I knew how hungry their fan base was, and I was like, oh, their fan base is going to be pissed listening to this, that I don't know shit about them.
Right.
Because my whole goal when I do these is usually to like try and genuinely learn about these artists too.
Right.
The same way that I think most of our audience that's listening.
But certain artists take that as disrespect, like when you don't really know about
certain
them.
ones do.
And how often you run into that? Because the sesh one, they sort of like seemed like they were kind of like not stoked on it because of that, right?
I felt that way, but those dudes have always been so cool to me after, and they were like, "Nah, it was dope. Don't worry about it." And honestly, the reaction from their following was overwhelmingly positive too.
Yeah.
I was expecting to get clowned on for that interview, because I thought we didn't have enough mics, and it was all unorganized, and it was like, for me, very anxiety-ridden interview, because I knew how popular they were, and I knew that I didn't know enough about them.
Right.
And honestly, like they're like. I mean, their music, I don't listen to it that much. Like, I fuck with it. It's dope, but it's like, it's just like,
Yeah,
it's just not what
your
I listen
lane,
to.
yeah.
And so, but at the same time, I recognize they're talented as fuck, and their fucking audience is so
Doing it,
hungry for
yeah.
them. So I'm like, oh, there's something that I just don't understand. You know what I mean? That's
Right,
dope.
yeah.
And anyway, the response from their people have been positive, and so it's like, I think as long as you go in just with a respectful attitude of like, yo, sorry, I don't know that much about you, but I'm like, I'm trying to learn just like everybody that's listening is trying to learn, really.
Right.
Because I would say that we don't have the most. I don't know what our demographic is, but I wouldn't say it's like, it's people that care about music, but I would say like 80% of our interviews, like we're putting our audience on to people.
Right.
It's not like people that they're requesting to get on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of the bigger ones that like when we do like the internet or Dizzy Wright or something like that, that's people that our audience has been asking for forever.
It's always interesting because it's like, on one hand, I want to interview people that my audience already wants to hear me interview, because that's like guaranteed they already are going to watch it. But then at the same time, you want to do things to challenge them, and you want to do things that are outside the box, and you want to be like an influencer. You want to like bring somebody to the table for the first time that nobody knew about.
Right. Well, and so that's the thing is like even between our audiences, I would say like there's probably some crossover, but I think the subtleties are enough to where it's like for example, the Larry June, we were talking about Larry June.
Right.
I think like if you guys do Larry June, most of your audience is already aware of who he is and is going to be hyped that you're doing a Larry June interview.
Yeah, yeah.
If I do a Larry June interview, I can almost guarantee that like 80% of my audience doesn't know who he is, because that's not the general type of music that I don't think the kind of neat audience listens to. But at the same time, I think they will love it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So for me, that's like doing a Larry June interview would be a put on.
That's a cool thing to say about your audience, though, that they just seem interested in learning new things. Because that's like when I think about my podcast, that's like the idea that I like best, is that like, oh, this is a place for learning. Like, you can figure out what the fuck is going on in this world if you listen to this. Like,
Well,
that's
I
just
feel
such
like
a good vibe.
You got the Yachty interview up right now, right? And like the kids kind of wanted that, but most of the world doesn't know who he is
Right.
now.
That's
so
one
they'll
of our
go
biggest
back
ones,
to that
yeah.
and they'll find that.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, this guy finds people early. Whereas
That's what I'm saying. I do.
It's the audience driving you to the people you're supposed to find early. So the
Yeah.
new audience is like,
That's true,
you
yeah.
know, so it kind of all blends in.
Well, we talked about that on our episode too, where I actually think, in context, the Yachty interview was early. You guys were early on
Right,
Yachty,
yeah.
Way early.
and got him like right at the right time. Because now it's probably hard. It's much harder for it to get an interview with Yachty than it was when you got it. So you were early.
I got lucky because he's just got friends who like the podcast a lot, who kind of told him like, yo, you
Yeah.
should do this, and he just hit me up and was like, hey, I'm down to do this. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now it seems like a big deal, because now everybody's looking at him like he's going to be the next thing, the next Young Thug or whatever. Like, I don't know what people are thinking is
Yeah.
going to happen, but he's like the next big dude out of Atlanta. But when he was asking me to do that interview, I definitely wasn't thinking of it like, oh, this is such a big deal. I was thinking, oh, but then by the time he actually got in the studio, he's with Coach K, who's managing him.
Then it seems like a big deal.
Kind of crazy, because I didn't, that was the last thing I ever thought when I was first checking out Yachty on SoundCloud, and
Right.
like it sounded so.
I mean, Coach K is like beyond being an amazing manager. He's also like just an amazing curator of talent,
Right.
because he's always managing the person that's about to blow up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's a combination of, I'm sure, skills as a manager, but also just ear for talent. You feel me? But yeah, so I think that my audience and your audience, I would say, like just from a distance, from the outside looking in, is a little different in that like I think your kids are probably real up on shit,
Right.
and mine, while they enjoy being up on shit, might not be as up on shit as your audience is, because like I like to think that they're open-minded, but at the same time I still have some knuckleheads that are like a little closed-minded about like, this isn't real music type of shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and one of my main goals is to like break that habit, because I always try to say like there's no bad music. It's just like it's not for you. If you don't
Yeah.
like it, it's just not for you. If someone else does like it, it's for them. So
The No Jumper fans, we call them the Rope Gang.
Shout out Rope Gang.
They don't call it cum, they call it rope.
smoking that rope.
Yeah, they fucking,
Shout out Rope Gang.
they guzzle rope. Yeah.
You know how like when cum comes out, it looks like a rope?
Yeah, ropes of.
That's what we
combat.
call
I've
it,
heard
rope.
that.
Now you
That's
empty
why we call it rope.
empty out a jug of rope on your couch at home, yeah.
Man, I don't ever sleep on my couch if that's what you do to your couch.
I fill up a whole jug. No, that's a line in Step Brothers from that one song. They say, every time I come, I produce a quart.
Every time I come, I rope the couch.
Hey, we're about to hit our hour and a half mark.
Oh, was that an hour and a half already?
Yeah, we just went in.
I talk so much.
That's how
That
No
was a long
Jumper
one.
happens, man.
My
Yeah.
bad.
Hey, no, what
This
should
is
we
our Thursday night.
tell everybody what you got going on, what to look out for, whatever, if they want to stay in touch with you.
So the easiest way to find me is on Twitter, I guess, at It's Intuition, and that's pretty much all my socials at It's Intuition, ITSINTUITION, and Kinda Neat is the name of my podcast, and if you just Google Kinda Neat, all kinds of shit will pop up, and
Yeah.
it's KINDANEAT. Our YouTube channel, we try to update every Wednesday. I mean, honestly, sometimes we'll go 4 weeks without, but we've been pretty good lately getting episodes up, and so I do a podcast and I do the YouTube channel, and they coexist together, and it's fun.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey,
yeah.
there's some good shit going on out there. So there's definitely a lot of rappers on the kind of neat YouTube and everything that you out there, even if you've never heard of the podcast before or whatever, that you probably fuck with them. So go look through the list. And
Performances on the YouTube, the podcast.
Yeah, I
on
mean,
iTunes.
honestly, if you go to youtube.com/kindaneat and just press play, like you'll have fun. There's a lot of good shit.
Yeah, because kids are always complaining. Because I was just on the road for like 3 weeks, so I didn't do any podcasts. But there's a lot of other fucking good podcasts out there.
Yeah.
Enjoy some of this
I mean,
shit.
I would
expand your mind.
I would genuinely say, like, if you like Adam's podcast, you'll probably like my podcast.
Yeah.
We're not that different of dudes, basically. So if you're looking for more podcasts to listen to,
You're like a more woke, older,
I don't know if I'm
Cuter.
He's a little bit more. Well, he's more woke on camera, but we talked about like girls and stuff like privately, and he's definitely
locker talk.
Yeah,
But I am I've gotten in trouble in real life with friends for not being woke on mic, so I try to stay woke on mic. You feel me?
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, I would genuinely. I'm not like a big self promoter or a liar. I'm neither of those things. But I would say if you're looking for more things to listen to, I think you'll like my show if you like this show.
That's a fact.
I love it.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Tax Stone, Tax Season, greatest podcast in the entire
Bang
world.
bang, and It's the Real, and my homie Mike
The Real.
Eagle. All of those are good podcasts.
A lot
Dr.
of
Drew
stuff out there.
podcast, baby. Dr.
If you know somebody
Drew.
with a podcast out there, let me know. I want to go on it, and I want to fucking fart on your weed. And then
Literally, I'll be on any podcast. Send me a T-shirt. I'll wear any T-shirt on camera.
Roseman wants to be on a podcast, and just so I can't even maneuver the camera, but look at this mountain of clothes that people have sent in.
Oh shit!
We're doing an episode where we review all this shit soon. So
I wanted to do that
it's
one. I wanted to
literally
do
about
that episode.
3.5, 4 feet tall.
yeah, it's a gigantic pile of shit.
That's going to be a dope episode.
I did it like a vlog style one the last time, and it was all right. But I think it's gonna be really good having like a few people discussing all the weird clothes that people send in. So
Yeah, as a guy who prints shirts, I got a lot to say about shirts.
and we open them on camera too, so it's got that unboxing feel, which is fun. Yeah,
Unboxing is like lit on YouTube.
People love that.
People love it. I don't understand it, but people love that shit.
I don't know what's in any of these. There might be
I'm about to
fucking
unbox this Bartley
cocaine,
James.
weed, fucking ecstasy, heroin. There could be all kinds of stuff in there. If you want to send us blunts and you can get them through the mail too, feel free. Not blunts, but
do you
weed.
shout out your address on here? What do you do? How do they?
It's in the on some shit bio on
on the
Twitter or
website.
Instagram. Yeah, if you want to send drugs, and if they get through, the thing is, police officers, if the drugs don't get through, then I
There's high.
didn't
police
directly
officers.
solicit it.
I think you just
You kind of did.
I think
Yeah.
you
I
just
you
exactly
But I
did.
like
I
paid
snitched
for
on
it, yeah.
yourself, really.
Don't send what he said.
If you
earlier.
do not send blunts, then we will never get them.
No, I mean they could send blunts too, and that's not even illegal. But that would be far less valuable. If you're like a weed guy and you want to send us like a pile of wax or something, that'd be cool too. We'll smoke that on camera. Anyway, this took a weird turn here. Yeah, smoke that rope. All right, thank you very much.
Adam's on hard times.
No, I was just thinking about how great it would be if somebody sent me a Penylene,
Please
and then I
send-
got all distracted thinking about
Please
that.
send Adam some snacks.
Yeah.
He's hungry.
Going Bodie and Brazy.
I'm going Bodie crazy right now. All right, thank you very much, Intuition Robesman. Follow No Jumper, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. Bow, 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 bow.
Notification gang out.
Notification.
Oh yeah, road gang out.
fucking wrecked your headphones with sweat, dude. Oh
Yeah?